I'm Harold Feld, Legal Director here at Public Knowledge. So, did you ever imagine that you would someday be having a conversation 5 years from now with Barack Obama and have the chance to say, you know, if you guys had just listened to me about what you should have done about broadband, then all of our national broadband problems would be solved? Well, happily, although you might not actually get a chance to talk to Barack Obama, you can have the ability to say, I told you so. This is the National Broadband Plan. One of the elements of the stimulus package is a requirement that by February of 2010, the FCC needs to present to Congress a plan for what we're going to do about our national broadband policy. For a long time, we've been one of the few industrialized nations that didn't have a broadband plan. We kind of hoped everything would take care of itself. Turns out that structuring a plan that gives meaningful access to every American so that we all have the opportunity to participate in the new economy, in the opportunities for education, in the opportunities for civic engagement that make us all that much culturally richer, takes a plan. It doesn't just happen on its own. So Congress finally authorized the creation of a national broadband plan. Yesterday, Public Knowledge filed what we think are the right recommendations for a national broadband plan. We divided up our comments into 5 different sections. Some things that are just so important that you don't just leave them to the market. Things like making sure that networks are open and accessible, that we have lifeline service and universal access to broadband in a way that's meaningful, that we have privacy protections and meaningful consumer protections, and that people are informed about their terms of service and they can't be changed at a moment's notice. Heck, we have laws that protect you when you buy a used car. You would think for something that's critical infrastructure, we're going to protect what people buy and make sure they know what they're getting. The second bucket is enhancing the competitive market. No, competitive markets can't do it themselves, but market mechanisms are real powerful, and we should harness them and make the best use of them. There are a lot of ways in which we can shape the rules of the road for the broadband marketplace so that we get out of our current duopoly that leaves rural folks behind and ignores people who can't afford to pay $39.95 a month, and make sure that we have robust competition at the application layer and, where possible, at the physical layer. Our next category is data. Everybody says we ought to be data-driven, but we don't really know jack about how broadband is used in this country or delivered. We are operating in total ignorance about one of the foundations of our economy, our basis for emergency response, and our basis for communicating with one another. The FCC needs to start collecting some information about not just who's got access in what zip code, but about what's the nature of traffic. Are we really heading for an exaflood? What's our middle mile situation? And what triggers should we have for when we need some kind of intervention? The fourth bucket is about the demand side. One of the things that this administration has had the foresight to recognize and that Congress incorporated in the stimulus bill was the recognition that it's not just enough to lay out lines and hope that people come and use this stuff. We need to explain to people what the value of using broadband is. We need to have every sector of our local government, state government, federal government, nonprofits, everybody out there making sure that people are actually aware, getting the training they need, getting the equipment they need, and remove any artificial barriers from people taking advantage of this fantastic technology. Final bucket is, what do we do for non-commercial actors? Until now, our entire focus on broadband policy has been on commercial providers. Do we bribe them? Do we leave them alone? Do we try to compel them with regulation? But there's a lot of opportunities for nonprofits, for cooperatives, for state governments, for local governments, for the federal government to do things that are going to make our national broadband policy work. That's not just should we build one big national fiber network, although that's actually how we started the backbone business back in the early 90s with the NSF net. So it's not such a crazy idea. It's about how do we have a mindful federal policy, mindful state and local policies that incorporate the uses of broadband at every level so that we maximize the use of this technology for our common good. I don't know if the FCC will incorporate all of these recommendations. I expect we'll have a lot of robust debate around these and the recommendations that others have made. Reply comments on the FCC proceeding are due in another 30 days. I hope everybody will participate in this debate. If nothing else, whether they take your broadband ideas or not. If you ever want the opportunity to tell Barack Obama, if you ever meet him, man, if you just listen to me about this broadband thing, I could have set you straight, this is the time to tell him.